Lost track of the forest through the trees, forgot what I was chasing. Spent so many nights living out at sea that my heart is gone vacant. And everybody who was close.
The topic from today is about the horizon line. And I know that lots of photographers overlook this because the only thing I hear people talking when I'm asking about the horizon line is that you should maintain it straight. And of course, this is the biggest mistake that you can do, to not have a straight horizon line. But as a landscape photographer, you need to use everything that you have, every element. You need to think about its way of influencing the final result of the photo. And the horizon line does exactly that. It influences a lot the story that you're telling in your photo. Positioning the horizon line lower or upper in the shot changes the story that you're telling. Now, the funny thing and the most interesting thing about this is that we can have the horizon line in the upper part of the photo, and still we can have different stories. And we can have the horizon line lower in the shot, and we can still have different stories and different ways of interpreting the photo and different reasons. And I will show you a couple photos where I have different reasons for placing the horizon line really low in the shot. So let's get into analyzing some photos and see the exact reasons for positioning the horizon line. And don't forget about my online mentoring program. It's a 30-day program for landscape photographers. All the details are on my website. The link for that is in the description of this video. Click on it. And if you're interested on joining this program, by the way, this is a one-on-one program. Just send me an email and we'll talk some more details. So I'm gonna start with this first photo. It's a sunset from Norway. And the horizon line is in the lower part of the image. And the reason is because of the sky. Usually when you place the horizon line in the lower part of the image, you do it because you want to emphasize the sky or the upper part of the image. Sometimes you don't have beautiful clouds. Sometimes you have only sky above. And the reason for that is to include all that negative space in order to maybe convey proportion or the true dimension of things, or maybe you want a more minimalist approach. But in the case of this photo, I'm talking about the beautiful sky and the beautiful clouds that are up there. Moving on to the next photo, still I'm having a horizon line pretty low. Now it's almost in the middle of this photo. And you will see when you have the horizon line almost in the middle of the photo, you will start to need an interesting foreground, if you want, or interesting elements in the lower part of the image. Having the horizon line in the middle of the shot forces you to think a little bit different about composing the shot, and you have to be very careful when you pick your foreground elements and all the elements and the composition lines that are from the bottom part of the photo up to the middle part. This is very obvious right now. It's a photo from Norway, and I have the horizon line really low because the aurora borealis or the northern lights are the subject over here. The point of interest is that light. Again, a photo from Tuscany, and again I have a low horizon line because of the look of the clouds and how the light kind of floods the entire image. And also I'm doing this whenever I have no interest in the lower part of the image, where I have no interesting foreground elements. That is the moment when you should consider having a low horizon line. Now this is another image where the horizon line is low, but the reason, because of the church, it's not the sky or the clouds. the church is something spiritual. It's a building that celebrates spirituality and a different way of thinking about life. And usually when we're talking about spiritual life, we tend to look towards the sky, or we tend to place our soul up. So that is why I'm having or I'm including more sky by placing the horizon line really low. Again, in this image, the horizon line is almost in the middle, almost. So that is why I needed to have a beautiful cloud or beautiful clouds in the sky, but also have some interesting elements in the lower part of the image. Now let's move to our second option. For example, over here, the horizon line is that much up that it's not included in the photo. And usually this is happening when you're photographing from the top of the mountain and you're looking down. Now, whenever you're doing this, the image is all about the elements in the lower part of the image. Whenever you feel that from a certain point up, the elements don't add up, don't add anything to the composition of the photo, or the sky doesn't look that interesting, that is the moment to have a horizon line placed in the upper part of the image. Here's an exception. We have a horizon line placed in the upper part of the image on 2/3 if you want, but the photo is still about the beautiful clouds in the sky and the foreground element. So there is no rule that can be followed 100% in photography. You need to understand the rules and to bend the rules. Again, a horizon line really up, and I wanted to have kind of like a vertical visual voyage through the image. So you're starting the photo in the forest below the mountain, and then you climb above the mountain. And the fact that you see a triangle in the lower part, it's not by accident, it's by intent. Now again, I'm having a horizon line high up in the photo, and the reason is to capture the layers of mountains in the distance. And of course, this photo over here, when we captured the moon rising in the Dolomites, it was obvious that the photo was about the moon and the light of the moon. Now I think it's very important that I've included the darkest area over there in the mountain in the foreground, because this way I have created depth, and you realize that that mountain is really far away beyond another mountain. And finally, this photo from Norway, where I'm having the beautiful sunrise light, and because there are no clouds in the sky, there is no reason for me to include the sky. And I try to find an interesting foreground element in the shape of cracked ice, and I think it works really well. The contrast is really good. The fact that the light shines only on the mountain, and you're having the blue cast from the ice in the lower part of the image, this creates a really beautiful and a contrasty image. This was the topic from today. I hope you found it interesting. Leave a comment if you have something to add. Check out my online mentoring program. And until next time, stay safe and bye-bye.